Hello, everyone. Welcome to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life podcast with your host, Avik, where we explore the many ways to improve our mental health, emotional, and spiritual well being. Today, we have a very special guest who will share her personal journey of depression and how her spiritual journey helped her to uncover the underlying causes and lifted her up mentally and emotionally. Our guest is Marilyn Penny, who is also dedicated to helping others uncover these unique divine gifts and live more authentically and in a healthier state. So, thank you, Marilyn, for joining today and making your time from your busy schedule for the show. And welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Avik. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So, Mal, like I'll definitely I love to know your journey, and I believe my listeners would also love to gain more knowledge about how to help themselves, like to be smarter and live in a healthier and which lift them up mentally and emotionally.
Sure. So, my journey began shortly after I had my daughter. And generally, what happens if it's a woman, it's postpartum depression. So, I was just told that I had the baby blues, and I just needed to be around other moms. And you sort of give the advice, and this is 26 years ago, almost 27 years ago. So, we weren't as aware of mental health and what was happening, and I knew something bigger was happening, but I pushed my way through it. And I think a lot of us do that. If we think there's something wrong, we just say, well, we'll work harder or we'll do more, or we just, we pull out that masculine energy and you start pushing through. And that's exactly what I did. I was a workaholic before I had my daughter. She was premature, which I think was because of stress, and I apologized for that many times. But I went back to work, and then I was not quite right. So, I'll change my job or I'll move. I did all of those three big things. And I mean, that if that's one piece of advice, is if you're not feeling yourself or you're not feeling quite right, don't start doing major changes in your life. Like, take some time to evaluate where you are, what the causes are, what the underlying causes are. Because ultimately, for me, I think it was my marriage, my relationship was breaking down, and I didn't recognize it, or I didn't want to recognize it and work on that. So I did everything else. I changed my job, I reinvented myself, I lost some jobs, I kept falling down the depression well without really understanding what was going on. And a lot of it was that I just didn't want to face things. And I think we do tend to kind of tuck things away, and we just don't want to deal with it. So, until until it just got so bad that I had to deal with it. So, yeah, and there were a lot of things that I did around kind of coming out of it. But that's sort of the crux of it, was really not understanding. We have a lot more knowledge now. This mental health crisis is bringing that to the fore. So people are understanding what it means to be sad and blue and what it means to be clinically depressed. There's a big difference, right?
Correct. Definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really, I guess nowadays it's very important to do self-care, and there is no harm to it. So it's very, very required as well. While I understand that you had a journey about the depression and it impacted also in your life as well. So also I read about your profile, and I also got to understand about your spiritual journey as well. So how did your spiritual journey help you to uncover the underlying causes of your depression and also lift you up for mentally and emotionally?
Yeah, so I think because I was raised with religion, it was, every Sunday you go to church and on the holidays, and I was a little bit sheltered and naive in that way, because I wasn't exposed to other religions and other thoughts and other ideas. And when I just was going through depression, and going to church really wasn't helping, it was actually making me feel sadder and more, and kind of not really giving that to me. And it just, I think it took me reaching out and meeting different people and starting to kind of just be open. And then, because someone had said to me probably 100 times, you got to read Louise Hay's books. You've got to listen to Wayne Dyer. You got, and I just wasn't in the right headspace for it at the time. But then looking back, a few years later, when I was ready, I started to open up to listening to Abraham Hicks and Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay. And the spiritual journey kind of evolved slowly for me. I think people are moving a little quicker than I did because it's so much more mainstream now. You can find everything on YouTube. And I mean, we didn't have any of that back then. So, and then just meeting people and being introduced to tarot cards, and I went, oh, what is this? And, well, this is fun. And, this is interesting. And then Kundalini yoga was a big turning point for me because I turned 50 and that was my gift to go and be instructed in Kundalini yoga. And then I started doing every single day for 40 days, doing the chanting, doing the kriyas. And then I just started coming back to myself. I started understanding who I was. And I think slowing down too, and just acknowledging those feelings was like, it was hard, but you have to do that to, it's kind of up and out, right?
Definitely. So it's really very interesting and also very helpful for us, like us, like other people as well. But the thing is, so if I take my example as well, so I always try to, okay, I'll start this. I'll start yoga from tomorrow itself. But somehow I believe there is something, I don't know, there is some energy or maybe which pull backs, like, okay, will do, but somehow it's not happening. That thing actually sometimes feel like demotivated. Sometimes you feel like, okay, I'm trying to do, but it's not happening. So these are the challenges also we feel sometimes. So I guess we should avoid all those things, and we should try to focus on at least one thing, and we can definitely, it can benefit us for sure. and
Yes.
and like you have already mentioned, like about the kriyas, about the yoga, but then also, like, I would like to understand, like, any specific practices or techniques you can share that can help during the spiritual journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually was introduced to meditation, and of course there is like a whole library of things of ways that you can meditate, and everybody is different. But I found a teacher that I quite liked, and I embraced it. And I, to this day, and this has been 4 years now, that I regularly meditate twice a day. And there are people that say, oh, I can't keep up with it, or I can't sit down, or I can't sit still. And it's like, so just be kind to yourself, first of all. And if you miss a day, it's okay. Because a lot of people give up things because they beat themselves up for not doing it perfectly. And the one thing that I learned from my meditation teacher, which I loved, was you will not stop your thoughts. So if you don't need to stop your thoughts in order to meditate. And that's a big myth that people say, I can't I can't stop thinking, I can't, if you're not in the right space for it, or you can't go for a walk today, or do a little stretching. If it doesn't have to be perfect. And some people say, well, if I don't have an hour for yoga, I'm not going to do it. I said, well, if you have 5 minutes for yoga, that's enough. If you can go out on the grass and take your shoes off and spend 5 minutes grounding, that's good enough. You don't have to do a ton of things, but you build on that. You say, okay, for 21 days, I used to write on the calendar, for 40 days, I'm going to do a half an hour of this, particular yoga, because I know it's going to help me. And then you get that, you set that intention, and then you start getting excited because you're checking it off every day on your calendar, and you're going, yeah, I can do this. And then you notice the difference. So I think that building that habit is really important, even if it's drinking a glass of water when you get out of bed. It doesn't have to be big things. It's just that one thing that you do every day that's going to help you with your health and set you on the right path.
Correct, definitely true. So like, yes, I also agree, and I'll definitely, after this show, I'll definitely focus on doing these things which I feel. I'll definitely follow this. And
Okay, good.
so also, how do you help others uncover their unique divine gifts? Like, and what role do you do these gifts play in living more authentically and in a healthier state?
Yes, so I use the Akashic Records. So it is a spiritual modality that I actually access. And it's interesting because I'm a business person. I had a long career in hospitality, and then I just started on a spiritual journey. So it's a kind of a coaching opportunity, but it also uses some spirituality. So I can actually go in and find out what your soul's personality is, your divine gifts, and then we can talk about, so what kind of work do you do? How do you make a living? And I'll say, well, that doesn't really align with your gifts, so how can you adjust that? Or how can you, after work, start expressing your gifts more? Because then that's going to make you feel more like yourself. Like, for instance, for me, my divine gift is truth, my soul's energy. So I'm all about expressing my truth and saying things as I feel, what's going on and what's happening. And for years, I wasn't able to do that. I just wasn't around the right people who would accept what I had to say. So that's how you tweak and how you start expressing your gifts. And for instance, someone with a communication energy, if they need to communicate with other people. So if they're writing in a journal and never publishing anything, or never talking to other people, or never having an audience, you're not expressing your gifts. So you're locking up that abundance and your authentic self. You're keeping it hidden. And we're meant to express our gifts.
Okay, okay. And so then if I have to understand, like, so how will you incorporate spirituality and mindfulness practices in your daily life to just to maintain the like emotional well-being and our mental health?
So I use my meditation practice and then incorporate yoga. And, if I am busy, but I don't like that word, I really try to just be engaged and not overdo. But even just going for a walk, I try to get outside every day. I try to keep myself surrounded by people who are positive and uplifting, like people that support me. And that's important. Like, if you have toxic people in your life, and sometimes we do, and those are our relatives, and you can't sort of always disconnect from those people, but limit your time with people like that, and make sure that you have a good balance of people who support you. And listen to great podcasts like Avix, and get that inspiration from all of these people who have all this knowledge and who are sharing their thoughts and feelings on all of these things, because there is so much support, right?
Thank you, Marilyn, for mentioning everything. And yes, it's very important. So I'm just trying my best to just to like share this knowledge of like about mental health and spreading the words with the people, so that it's very critical nowadays. Like, people are quite busy these days, and now the amount of stress has also increased in our life. So
Mhm.
it's much important to take care of ourselves, our mental health, because we have only a single life and we can't ruin that. So with this, definitely, like, for those who may be struggling with depression, or maybe lack of direction in their life, so what
Mhm.
advice do you have for them on how to begin their own journey of self discovery and healing?
Okay, so I mean, first of all, if you do feel that you are experiencing depression, seek medical help, like go to a professional, to a doctor, but also look for other areas too, because I did the medical, I did the medications, I did the therapies, but then I started seeking other things like the spirituality and the listening to, podcasts and information in YouTube, and going for walks, and just that, self-care. And if you're unhappy in your relationship relationships, or you're unhappy with your job, or just try to find something that brings you joy. Just even if it's one thing, if you have a pet and you like to walk that pet or snuggle with that pet, or if you have one particular friend who you can go and be real with and have a coffee with, just make sure that you're doing one thing that brings you joy every day and really focus on that, because that's going to shift other things in your life. Right. So always don't give up on yourself. That's the big thing. Is, there are many times I was like, oh no, I can't do this another day. And then you just sort of say, okay, I need to just keep taking care of myself, keep finding people that are going to help me, and, work through it. And obviously I'm here to help other people, because we come through these things and then we pay it forward, right? Then we're here to help others do the same.
I definitely like the this paid forward. It's very, very important.
Yeah.
It's the kindfulness we all should have, and definitely we shouldn't be thinking of in return. Definitely we should always pay it forward. And because I'm remembering the movie, it was there in 2000. I forgot the year.
Uh-huh.
Actually, it relates to everything. So pay it forward is something I really like. What you mentioned, so thank you
Yeah.
so much. And before we come to a conclusion, I'll definitely love to know any two or three exercises you would suggest that will help people. So for better mental health, and or maybe just to cool down the stress. Any
Okay.
you suggest? Yeah.
Yeah, grounding is probably the number one and the easiest. There are like a simple grounding mat that you can get that plugs in, like if you don't have access to outside. But if you can go put your shoes in the earth or your feet in the earth at some point, and even if you can't, just putting your bare feet on the floor and setting an intention that you are extending down to Mother Earth and you are asking for the earth's energy. I think that is huge. Secondly, a gratitude practice. Like, even if on your worst day, there is something that you can be grateful for. So, and my daughter and I actually did this for 30 days. We sent each other messages with 3 things that we are grateful for. So, find a buddy and send a message every day and say, I just want to focus on being grateful. Because sometimes you'll get together with your friends and you tend to complain and carp and, and young people do this too. And they're always, in the negative spin. And that's okay. Do that for 15 minutes, set a timer, and then start doing a positive exercise as well. And the other thing I would say, just breathing, simple breathing exercises, like breathe in for 4 counts and breathe out for 8 counts, or what other breathing exercise you like to do. Try to do that for just a couple of minutes a day, a couple of minutes before you go to sleep, when you wake up, just to set the tone for the day, to relax you. And those few things I think would really help to set the tone. And then you'll add some things and then you'll take some things away. Everybody is going to be different. So don't let anyone tell you what the answer is, because only you know what the answer is for you. Yeah. And then just try all kinds of different things and have fun.
That's most important, yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's really helpful. And thank you for sharing your powerful story and insights on how spirituality can help uncover the underlying causes of depression. And also, it helps us more authentically in a healthier state. So, for our listeners, also, always remember that it's okay to seek help and support whenever it's needed, and that we all have unique gifts and talents to share with the world. So
Yes.
join us for the next time for more discussions on improving our mental health, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And I'll definitely would love to bring Marilyn again on our show. And that's really grateful. And thank you so much for being in our show today.
You're welcome. And I'd just like to share my website. It's lifeguidecoaching.ca. And I actually have a free guide to living a more authentic life. So if you go to lifeguidecoaching.ca/guide, there's just a guide that can walk you through and get you thinking about some areas of your life and where you want to make some changes.
Great, great. That's
Great.
great.
Excellent.
Sure, sure. So, okay.